Hello and welcome to another Sci-Fi Creepypasta with me, Zero Option. If you like what I do, please hit that sub and like button and leave a comment down below. And with all of that out of the way, let's read I'm the Last Astronaut Aboard the I.S.S. by Alec 2004. I've locked myself in my room and I'm writing this, hoping that I'll be able to post it on whatever crappy signal I can find. I just have to wait out my tour and hope someone comes up here to collect me. Otherwise, I'm pretty much effed, and I'll be the next one taken. It all started about a week ago around 1900 hours. Right on dinner time, the lights went out, and because we were cruising above southern New Zealand at the start of winter for all the southern hemisphere, there was no light at all. Pitch effing black. I called out to my buddy who was eating dinner with me, Oleg, but I got no response. Oleg was not exactly the easily scared type, so it's not like he would have frozen in shock or anything. Again, I call out, Oleg, can you check your comms with base? I'll go look at the electronics. To no avail. Silence. And then as if nothing had happened, the lights come back on. I look around, my eyes seared by the sudden burst of bright light, only to find that I was alone in the room. I could have sworn, hell, I knew Oleg was eating right across from me a moment ago. And looking at the door out of the room, I saw that it was still closed, so he couldn't have left, otherwise I would have heard him. I get up to walk towards the door, filled with an anxious curiosity. What was going on? Does base know we just lost power? As if all these thoughts filled my head, the door opened and who only walks through but Oleg. What the heck just happened? I asked him, almost disbelief. Nothing, just a little hiccup, he said in a calm but weirdly assertive tone. I've known Oleg for a while, and something just seemed off. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. His posture was a little different, his voice a tad lower. Nothing major that would have set off alarm bells in my head. Then I realized, his eyes, they were a different color. Before they were blue, now they're black? Very dark, sure, but I still can't quite describe the color. Nevertheless, I had to have a chat with Anne, another one of the engineers, to see what was going on. When I got to Anne, she seemed flustered, a far cry from Oleg's calmness. In fact, she shared my reaction. I have no idea, was the only response to all of my questions. She was trying to work out what went wrong with the electronics and told me to hop on the comms and report what happened back to base. Houston, this is the I.S.S. We've just had a short blackout. Over. Yes, this is Houston. We know and it's fine. Don't worry about it. Over. What the heck? I thought to myself. Houston and NASA should be bricking themselves in the event of a blackout. Vital science research and the whole space station require power. As if there's an issue, it should be one of the top priorities. In fact, Houston had a similar reaction to Oleg. After reporting all of this back to Anne, she seemed equally confused, both at Houston's reaction and Oleg's. She pulled me aside and said that something wasn't right with Oleg. Thank God she had noticed it too. Something's not right with Oleg. I don't know what it is, but I don't think Oleg is, well, Oleg. I know, I couldn't put my finger on it for a while, but it's his eyes. They're black. Before they were blue. Eventually we stopped working. Anne and I were tired, due to the fact there didn't seem to be any electrical fault at all, coupled with both Oleg and Houston saying nothing was wrong. We decided to go to sleep. Each of us had out our own rooms with a bed and our possessions we'd taken up with us. Before into bed, I wished Anne a good night. She had the night shift, and I made sure to steer clear of Oleg. In the morning, I'd see what was up with him anyway. Before into bed, I wished Anne a good night. She had the night shift, and made sure to steer clear of Oleg. In the morning, I'd see what was up with him. Anyway, I closed my little door to my room and went to sleep. Needless to say, it took me a little longer than it usually would, but I managed. I always do. I woke to the sound of screams. Shooting upright, I nearly banged my head on the handrail. It's not easy to get into bed with no gravity. Getting up, I ran out of my room, still in my sleeping kit. I quickly made my way to the control room, my heart racing. I could hear Anne's screams, a high-pitched howl that sounded like something out of a horror movie. And then I saw it, reaching the control room. I fell back on the floor, the sudden shock of the gravity bringing me back to my sense. Looking up, I saw Anne's body, laying on the ground, lifeless, her face looking up at me with dead eyes. In a small moment of clarity, I realized three things. Oleg isn't Oleg. I really should get out of here, and Anne shouldn't be looking up at me. She was lying on her stomach. You can only go so fast with no gravity. But even so, I'm confident I set a new world record on the way back to my room. I looked back only twice, but unfortunately that was just enough to get a reasonably clear image of what used to be Oleg. On all fours, with his hands facing outwards, Oleg came after me. His eyes were enlarged, taking up what used to be his cheeks. His jaws were wide open. His lower teeth were right where his neck should have ended. Despite Oleg moving faster than me, the slight head start had meant that I got to my room with my door locked just before he bashed his body right up against it. He scratched at the door twice more and pounded at it for 5 or so minutes before he stopped. That was the last thing I heard for a few sleepless days. And then there was the knocking, slight at first, then continuing into a firm knock, shaking me out of my daze. Despite being pulled back to consciousness from half-asleep states, I was still frozen in fear. I always thought that it was a cliche, being too scared to move. But no, it's real. Your muscles lock up, and despite being able to think normally, you can't move at all. Anyway, the knocking stopped almost as soon as I realized it was there, and was replaced by a soft voice. Anne's voice. "Come out now, please. You're being silly. We need to continue with the mission." She was dead. I know she was dead. I saw her body, her broken neck. No, this was not Anne at all. Even the voice was ever so slightly different. "F off. I don't even know what you are, but you're not Anne, so just F off," I screamed back, filled with a sudden burst of rage that was quickly replaced with dread. She replied in a much firmer tone, "Open up this door now before I have you kicked off the mission." I didn't see a need to respond. The last thing I've heard for a few days was another scream. This time, not one made out of fear, but anger. And then, nothing. I'm not leaving this room. I know I'll die, or my mind will at least. Not that I'm already losing it being cooped up in here. I only pray the next crew arrives shortly, or NASA sends up someone to investigate. I've only got a short supply of sweets and other small bits of food I've brought up from home when here with me, so I won't last long. I've got a tap, so water's not an issue. If you work or know anyone who works at NASA, please send help. I'm the last astronaut aboard the I.S.S, and the knocking just started again.